हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम बैक ऑन englitzone। आज की वीडियो में हम डिस्कस करेंगे विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ, ग्रेट रोमांटिक पोएट, and he had written lyrical ballads with the collaboration work that was with H.T. Coleridge and UPTGT के सिलेबस में विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ एज अ पोएट पूछे जाते हैं, एज एन ऑथर पूछे जाते हैं। तो बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट वीडियो आप सभी के लिए होगा जिसमें हम इंपॉर्टेंट बायोग्राफी, इंपॉर्टेंट कोट्स के साथ साथ उनकी इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क्स का भी डिस्कशन आज के इस इंपॉर्टेंट वीडियो में करेंगे। तो एंड तक वीडियो को वॉच आउट जरूर कर लीजिएगा आप सभी। इस चैनल एंग्लिट जोन पे जल्दी से शेयर कर दीजिए सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म पे अपने इस लिंक को जो कि अभी आपके सामने है, विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ से रिलेटेड स्पेसिफिकली यूपीटीजीटी को ध्यान में रखते हुए आप सभी के लिए ये इंपॉर्टेंट वीडियो है। तो चलिए स्टार्ट करते हैं हमारा आज का सेशन विद द इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्ट्स रिलेटेड टू विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ। And friends, let's begin with the important facts about the life of William Wordsworth. And William Wordsworth was one of the founders of the English Romanticists and one its most central figure and important intellects. Yes, friends, William Wordsworth was one of the founder of English Romantic Age. He has, you can say, the Romantic Age started with the collaboration of a book that was Lyrical Ballads. With the he had collaborated in this book, in this poetic book, that with the S.T. Coleridge. S.T. Coleridge के साथ उन्होंने इस बुक में कोलैबोरेट किया था and the book was published in 1798 and with this date the English Romantic Age started in history of English literature. William Wordsworth was born on 7th April 1770 and died on 23rd April 1850, was an English romantic poet who, with Samuel Taylor Coleridge, that was S.T. Coleridge, helped to launch the Romantic Age in English literature with their joint publication Lyrical Ballads. Yes, friend, Lyrical Ballads के साथ उन्होंने Romantic Age की start किया था and this book was published in 1798. 1798 में book publish हुई थी and Samuel Taylor Coleridge, S.T. Coleridge was also the, one of the poet who had with William Wordsworth composed this important book of Romantic Age, and with this Romantic Age started in history of English literature. Next we have, it was posthumously titled and published by his wife in the year of his death, before which it was generally known as the poem to Coleridge. Yes friends, इनकी जो वाइफ थी, इन्होंने इस बुक को उनके डेथ के बाद, जिस ईयर इनकी डेथ हुई थी विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ की, इन 1850, ये बुक टाइटल किया था और पब्लिश किया था विद द नेम ऑफ द लिरिकल बैलेट्स। लिरिकल बैलेट्स के नेम से ये बुक पब्लिश हुई थी आफ्टर द डेथ ऑफ William Wordsworth. This is one of the important fact related to the romantic age and related to the life of William Wordsworth, literary career of William Wordsworth. एंड इसके पहले जो इस बुक का टाइटल था दैट वाज द पोएम टू कॉलरिज। इस बुक का टाइटल था, इसको जनरली लोग जानते थे व्हेन दिस वाज पब्लिश इन 1798, it has the title the poem to Coleridge. Next we have one of the Wordsworth's most famous poem, Tintern Abbey, was published in this collection along with Coleridge, the Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Yes friends, इस बुक में जो लिरिकल बैलेड्स बुक 1798 में पब्लिश हुई थी, it has विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ फेमस पोएम टिंटर्न एबे। विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ की टिंटर्न एबे जो पोएम थी, बेस्ट पोएम उनकी है, वो इस बुक में पब्लिश हुई थी। एंड ऑल्सो एस.टी. कॉलरिज की जो पोएम थी दैट वाज द राइम ऑफ द एंशिएंट मैरिनर। दिस बोथ पोएम्स वर पब्लिश्ड इन दिस बुक the lyrical ballads in 1798. When it was published in 1798, the two poems of the two poets, one from Wordsworth and other from S.T. Coleridge, that was published in this poem. Sometimes questions also asked in exams like this, which poem of Coleridge published in lyrical ballads? Then that answer would be the rhyme of the ancient mariner. And if asked about Wordsworth, then Tintern Abbey would be the answer. And moving on to the next, the second edition published in 1800 had only Wordsworth listed as the author and include a preface to the poem. Yes friends, जब इसका second edition आया, the first edition came into the 1798 and but that the second edition published in 1800 में publish हुआ है. And one thing important to know, जो जानना बहुत जरूरी है, that this poem has a 4 volume. It was published in four times. It has a four edition. That was the last edition published in 1805. The first was 1798, second was 1800, third was 1802, and the fourth was the 1805. That was the last edition of this lyrical ballad. And friends, जो second edition जो publish हुआ है वो 1800 में हुआ था, और इसमें वर्ड्सवर्थ को ही अपने आप को उन्होंने author list किया है. Yes, that this was not the collaboration with the ST College. He had himself authored title as the name of himself, and also he included a preface in this poem, in this lyrical ballad book. Next important fact about William Wordsworth we have: Wordsworth was Britain's poet laureate from 1843 until his death on 23rd April 1850. Yes, friends, Wordsworth was the poet who was entitled as the poet laureate by the government of Britain. ब्रिटेन की गवर्नमेंट जो पोएट लॉरिएट होता है, जो ब्रिटेन की उसको एक उपाधि मिलती है ब्रिटेन की गवर्नमेंट के थ्रू, एंड he has to something write about compose about the highliness of the Britain गवर्नमेंट की वजह से कुछ वो राष्ट्रीय कवि के नेम से यू कैन से दैट कि वो राजकीय कवि थे उस टाइम के, एंड एट दैट टाइम द टाइटल वाज गिवन टू हिम in 1843 को उनको वो टाइटल दिया गया था एज अ पोएट लॉरिएट. ही वाज ऑनर्ड एंड ही वाज on that position until his death till 1850. And there was a very famous poem about him composed by Robert Browning, lost leader we can say. This is about the his poet laureateship from the Britain government and how he criticized Wordsworth in that poem. We will discuss that later. लॉस्ट लीडर जो है वो इसी के ऊपर बेस्ड ऑन है, किस तरीके से वो उनको वो उपाधि दी गई थी, और रॉबर्ट ब्राउनिंग ने थोड़ा उसको क्रिटिसाइज किया था उस पोएम में वर्ड्सवर्थ को. एंड द वन इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग इज वी हैव टू नो दैट इज in 1843 he was honored with the poet laureate, and until his death he was on that position. Next we have Wordsworth, Coleridge and Southey came to be known as the lake poets. Yes, friends, this is also very important phrase in English literature, lake poets. Who were the lake poets? Answer would be William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge and Robert Southey. These are the three poets from the lake districts of London. That's why they were came to be known as the lake poets. वो जाने जाने लगे lake poets के name से history of English literature में. These are the three poets, Wordsworth, Coleridge and Southey. Next we have Wordsworth's earliest poetry was published in 1793 in the collection An Evening Walk and Descriptive Sketches. Yes, friends, these were the two early poetic work of William Wordsworth, which was published in 1793, but it was not regarded as the romantic poet. It was not came to be known as the romantic poet. The main romantic age started with the publication of the Lyrical Ballads in 1798, but these are the two other poems by Wordsworth which was published in 1793. His Lyrical Ballads was not his first poetic work. These two were An Evening Walk and Descriptive Sketches were the two important works or earliest work of Wordsworth. इनके जो starting के works थे वो Descriptive Sketches and An Evening Walk थे. Next we have Wordsworth's magnum opus is considered to be Prelude, a semi-autobiographical poem of his early years. Yes, friend, the Prelude is regarded as semi-autobiographical poem of Wordsworth, and this is also the magnum opus of Wordsworth. Next we have Wordsworth also gives his famous definition of poetry as the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. It takes its origin from emotions recollected in tranquility. This was the famous definition of poetry given by Wordsworth. Yes, William Wordsworth has given a very famous definition. Mostly, if the what is the definition of poetry, then we definitely mention this word, these lines of Wordsworth, what he had, how he had defined poetry: a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. It takes its origin, emotions recollected in tranquility, and called his own poems in the book Experimental. A fourth and final edition of Lyrical Ballads was published in 1805. Yes, friend. This was the last edition of the Lyrical Ballad, which was published in 1805. Please note down this question because sometimes question is also asked. You never know what kind of question would be asked in your exam. So this is important question to be noted, that in which what was the last in which year the last edition of Lyrical Ballads published. Then answer would be 1805. Next we have between 1795 to 1797, Wordsworth wrote his only play, The Borders, a verse tragedy. Yes, friend, this was the poem, this was the drama written by William Wordsworth, and that was written between 1795 to 1797. And The Borders was the title of that play. It was a verse tragedy. It was a tragedy in a form of verse, in a form of poetic lines. Now let's discuss the famous quotations about Wordsworth, what the poet and critics had said about the in the praise of Wordsworth. Let's discuss that. The first we have, just for a handful of silver he left us, just for a ribbon to stick in his coat. Yes, friends. Earlier I had talked about this quotation, this poem by Robert Browning. The poem was titled as "The Lost Leader," about the laureateship of the from the government of Britain. And this poem is about Wordsworth, William Wordsworth के ऊपर ये poem है, when he accepted the poet laureateship from the government of Britain. Browning had said this line in in a way to criticize, in a way to not, he was not happy within. That's why he criticizes this acceptance of laureateship by William Wordsworth. Just a handful silver. This is also very famous poem by Robert Browning, and this was the opening line in the first line, which was published in 1845. ये poem जो थी वो 1845 में Lost Leader title से publish हुई है. Next we have, he lived amidst untrodden ways to royal lake that lead, a bard whom there were none to praise and very few to read. This was said by Hartley Coleridge. He lived amidst the untrodden ways, which was published in 1827. Also famous line by a poet by about Wordsworth. Next we have, he is in this sense the most original poet now living, and the one whose writing could be least be spared, for they have no substitute elsewhere. This was said by William Hazlitt, famous poet. The spirit of the age, this was said by William Hazlitt in his work The Spirit of the Age, William Wordsworth, which was published in 1825. Next and last we have, Wordsworth went to the lakes, but he was never a lake poet. He found in stones the sermons he had already hidden there. This was said by Oscar Wilde, The Decay of Line, and it was written about 1889. So we had discussed very few quotations about William Wordsworth from the other poets of his age or from other ages. So friends, here let's begin with the first work of William Wordsworth, that was Descriptive Sketches. It was a poem which was published in 1793, and the same year an evening walk of William Wordsworth poem also published with this work Descriptive Sketches. And जो इनकी पहली work थी, it was not very famous, not very popular in English literature, but it is considered the first work of William Wordsworth. Next we have Lyrical Ballads, which was published in 1798, and with this publication of the Lyrical Ballads in English literature, Romantic era started, and it was a work of collaboration work of William Wordsworth and also S.T. Coleridge, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Both have written composed poems and included poems in this work, Lyrical Ballads, which was full title Lyrical Ballads with a few other poems. इसका जो full title था Lyrical Ballads with a few other poems था, इसमें most of the poems were of Wordsworth. जो most poem थे उसमें जो Wordsworth ने include किया हुआ है, and also there was a few other poems of the S.T. Coleridge, and generally it was marked at the beginning of the Romantic movement in English literature. Next we have Tintern Abbey, lines written above Tintern Abbey, which was generally known as the name of Tintern Abbey in English literature. It was also published in the same year 1798, and ये इनका एक work था which was remembering in this work, he was remembering the visit which was he has done in July 13, 1798. Is called simply Tanternaway. Is a poem written tightly structured decasyllabic blank verse. Decasyllabic is a 10-line syllables. It has a 10 syllables in this decasyllabic lines, and blank verse में लिखी हुई poem होती है. Comprises verse, paragraph rather than stanza. It has total 159 lines. Yes friends, most important facts इस poem से related जो Wordsworth की है, that is it was written in lines. It was written in verse form, नॉट इन स्टैंजाज. यस फ्रेंड्स, ये स्टैंजा में पोएम नहीं लिखी गई है, ये लाइंस में लिखी गई है पोएम जो वर्ड्सवर्थ ने लिखी है. एंड टोटल नंबर ऑफ लाइंस इट हैज 150 लाइंस. नेक्स्ट work we have Imitations of Immortality, which was published in 1807. It was an ode, and there are three types of ode: Pandaric, Horatian, and also irregular ode we have. And its full name is the poem Imitations of Immortality, that is Imitations of Immortality from Recollections of Early Childhood, is a poem by William Wordsworth, completed in 1804 and published in the poem in 2 volumes in 1807. ये 2 volumes में poem publish हुई है 1807 में, and it was completed in 1804, and it was the first printed as ode in 1807, and the poem is in irregular Pindaric ode in 11 stanzas. It has a total 11 stanzas, and it was known as by the name of Pindar. Pindar के name से ये ode famous हुआ है. That's why it is known as Pindaric ode. And we will also discuss ode in our coming videos in details. What are the types of ode and how it is defined in English literature. Next we have The Excursion, which was published in 1814, and the full title of this poem was The Excursion, being a portion of the Recluse, a poem. Is a long poem by romantic poet William Wordsworth and first published in 1814. The poem is arranged into 9 books. Yes, friends, this poem has a 9 books, and this poem has also characters. Yes, friends, important facts related to this poem of Wordsworth. If there is a question asked in exam, in which poem of Wordsworth has a characters, then the poem is Excursion, which has the character name, the poet himself, the wanderer and solitary, and the pastor. These are the characters in the poem Excursion of William Wordsworth, and it was a part of Recluse. Next we have the Prelude, or Growth of a Poet's Mind, which was published in 1850. An autobiographical poem in blank verse by the English poet William Wordsworth. Yes friends, ये विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ की द प्रिलूड जो है वो विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ की ऑटोबायोग्राफिकल पोएम है, जो कि उनकी आत्मकथा है. उसको विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ ने लिखी है. इन इट ही टेल्स द स्टोरी ऑफ हिज इनर लाइफ फ्रॉम द अर्लीस्ट चाइल्डहुड अप टू 1798. जो उनके स्टार्टिंग टाइम से था, इनर लाइफ के बारे में उन्होंने बताया है. व्हाट वाज हिज थिंकिंग, हाउ ही की इन नेचर्स व्यू, नेचर्स लैब, किस तरीके से हाउ ही चेंज्ड हिज माइंड टुवर्ड्स नेचर, हाउ ही वाज इंक्लाइंड टुवर्ड्स नेचर. उन्होंने अपनी लाइफ को डिस्कस किया है, अपनी लाइफ की स्टोरीज को डिस्कस किया है फ्रॉम अर्ली चाइल्डहुड अप टू 1798 तक की, चाइल्डहुड से लेकर के 1798 तक की लाइफ को इस पोएम में, इस वर्क में, द प्रिल्यूड में उन्होंने डिस्कस किया है. दैट्स व्हाई इट इज नोन एज द ऑटोबायोग्राफिकल वर्क ऑफ विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ बाय हिमसेल्फ. The Prelude is an extremely personal work and reveals many details of Wordsworth's life. Yes, friends, it has many things to know about the life of the William Wordsworth by going through this work of William Wordsworth, The Prelude. Next, we have The Recluse, which was published in 1888. It is stated that the poem was designed to be introductory to the Recluse, and that the Recluse, if completed, would have been consisted the 3 part. Friends, Recluse that was not uncompleted work of William Wordsworth. ये इनका uncompleted work था. It was not completed, and if it has completed, then it has 3 parts. The second part was excursion, and the third part was only planned. जो third part था, the first part was a clause, the second was excursion, and the third part was only planned because it was not completed. It was incompleted work of William Wordsworth. Next we have The Word is Too Much with Us. It is a sonnet poem by William Wordsworth. Yes friends, this is also very famous poem of William Wordsworth and आगे हम इसको discuss करेंगे अपनी वीडियो में details में कि what is the structure of this poem and how this poem was the theme, what are the message he conveys through this poem. We will also discuss later in our videos. By English romantic poem William Wordsworth. In it, Wordsworth criticizes the word of the first industrial revolution for being absorbed in materialism and distancing itself from nature. The poem was first published in poems in two volumes which was published in 1807. ये वो poem थी जो कि उनके poetic volume poems in two volumes जो कि 1807 में publish हुई है. It was published in that work poems in two volumes, and this poem has a Wordsworth has criticized the word the human mentality, how it has changed after the industrial revolution, and it has gone through towards the materialism in spite of nature. It has maintained a distance from nature. Nature से एक दूरी सी बना ली है, and he had discussed in this poem the first industrial revolution in England. And the next book we have I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. It was known as daffodils. Yes friends, ये daffodils के नेम से जानी जाती है. I wandered lonely as a cloud. अगर daffodils पूछा जाता है तो then this is the same word, and it's a lyric poem by William Wordsworth. It was a best known work published in 1807 in poems in two volumes. जैसे कि आपका the word is too much with us वो भी इसी poetic volume में publish हुई है जो कि 1807 में by the name of poems in two volumes, and this work I wandered lonely as cloud, that is known as daffodils, also published in the same volume, poems in two volumes. Next is She Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways, is a three stanza poem written by Wordsworth in 1798 when he was 28 years old. The verse was first printed in Lyrical Ballads in 1800. इनके second part में Lyrical Ballad has a main four parts, is divided into four volumes, and इसके जो four parts आए थे, जो इसका four edition आया था, that was the second edition came in 1800, and in this work he has included the poem She Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways of the Lyrical Ballads. Next we have The Thorn, was written in 1789. Wordsworth's inspiration for setting of the poem A Mountain came from his own experience of seeing hawthorn trees on Quantock Hill in Somersetshire, and the poem was included in the first volume of Lyrical Ballads. ये बहुत ही important कुछ facts हैं friends which you have to know, that in what were the work included in the Lyrical Ballads. So आपको She Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways and The Thorn, these are the poems included in his Lyrical Ballads. Next we have The Solitary Reaper, is a lyric poem by romantic poet Wordsworth and one of his best known work. Yes friends, Solitary Reaper is the best known work of English literature by William Wordsworth. The poem was inspired by him and his sister Dorothy Wordsworth stay at the village at Strathar in the parish of Ballinquidishire in Scotland in September 1803. ये उनके सिस्टर डोरथी एंड उनका जो एक है जर्नी को बताया गया है, जो वो विलेज में रहते थे स्ट्रैटहायर के उस टाइम के मेमोरीज को इस पोएम में उन्होंने सोलिटरी रीपर में इंक्लूड किया हुआ है, एंड इट वाज अ लिरिक पोएम. नेक्स्ट वी हैव वी आर Salmon, is a poem written by William Wordsworth, composed by William Wordsworth and published in his Lyrical Ballads. It describes a discussion between an adult poetic speaker and little cottage girl about the number of brothers and sisters who dwell with her. So it was like a kind of conversation, discussion, and also a kind of giving ideas and imparting ideas, or sharing ideas of one another in this poem We Are Salmon by William Wordsworth, and it was published in Lyrical Ballads. Lyrical Ballads में ये publish हुई है 1798 में ये poem उनके work में. And so friends, इस poem में हमने कुछ briefly discuss किया. We have discussed brief way about the poems, about the poetic work of William Wordsworth, and each and every poems we will discuss later on in our coming videos in details way, so that you can understand the structure of the poem and what was the theme of the poem, what poet wants to convey to the readers, and how he feels for nature. we all will discuss in our coming videos. Till then, stay connected with EnglishZone for the best videos. And if you like the video, please press the like button and also share this with your friends. Thank you very much for watching this.